Thank you for that introduction. I assume that you can hear me. I can't see you because I'm sharing, so an audible would be great to know that you can hear me. Today, I'm going to talk about a tool we developed called PyR that allows us to use Python objects in a very native R-like manner. So at Somalogic, we have a technology which allows us to detect over 7,000 proteins in a single biological sample, typically a blood sample. Samples are run through the SomaScan assay, and we get a 7,000 column data matrix with each row representing a sample and each column representing a detected protein signal. We then use statistical and machine learning methods in R and Python to develop predictive and prognostic models that can be used for personalized health decisions. Currently, we have models to predict risk of having a cardiovascular event, such as heart attack, heart failure, or stroke, models that can help diagnose disease, such as liver disease, and models to predict physical characteristics, such as lean body mass, abdominal body fat, or lung capacity. All of these predictive results can be generated from a single blood sample as opposed to multiple clinical tests or multiple biopsies. The paper that I show here from Nature Medicine describes a collection of 11 of these tests and illustrates the concept of a comprehensive health check based on a simple blood sample. Our data science group is mostly an R shop, but we're expanding our toolbox to include Python tools. Since we value automation, reproducibility, and standardization all very highly, it is important to have a common code base that can handle cross-language modeling. The reticulate package has been an extremely valuable tool in creating a bridge between R and Python, and in general, it gives a very clean interface from R to Python modules and provides direct access to Python class object variables and methods in a way that can be integrated almost seamlessly in R code. It does, however, create an inconsistent language syntax between R native objects and the imported Python objects. In particular, the $ operator needs to be used to access a Python submodule or methods or classes. And in the code at left, I've indicated where the $ operator is used to access different components of a Python module. While this access to Python components is extremely valuable and it greatly simplifies using the two languages together, the two different syntaxes make it difficult to generalize the code across Python and R objects independently. In a standard Python programming approach using the $ operator, I would have an object here, for example, pylinreg. To call the predict function, I use the $ operator to access the predict function from that underlying Python-based object. In the classical R functional programming approach using S3 classes, the predict function for the rlinreg object is accessed by passing the object itself to the function as the first argument to the function call, and then letting the underlying S3 architecture dispatch the call to the appropriate function. So this distinction between syntax makes it difficult for overall generalization, and it would be really nice to be able to harmonize these pieces together. And this is the intent of PyR. To make the usage of the Python components more consistent with R's functional programming, we took an approach similar to carrot and parsnip. We did avoid, however, calling it turnip or rutabaga. In the simple class hierarchy that I illustrate here, the model abstract base class defines the primary interface that any model object, regardless of its type, should support in order to be used in a very general way within our code workflows. So let me state that again. The model abstract base class defer. The model abstract base class does not, however, provide implementation of these functions. Instead, it just creates that contract between a given class and the code that intends to use that class. Various model types are then derived from the model abstract base class. These derived classes inherit this interface contract of the model class, and then they provide the implementations of these functions in their specific way. The derived classes can also provide specialized functions that are specific to a given model type, again, creating a contract between the interface and the code that uses that interface. While this hierarchy could extend further both horizontally and vertically and become very complex, this simplified structure captures the vast majority of the use cases and the needs that we have. To use this model hierarchy, we developed PyR. At the top, we have the model object concept that could be a model developed in R, shown in the left path, using parsnip, carrot, or any other package. By ensuring that we have the expected interface defined by the model hierarchy using S3 methods, we create a clean functional interface that can be used in a common way. This is the classic R programming mechanism. Or the model could be implemented in Python using an object-oriented approach, as shown on the right. The Python class that encapsulates the model would be imported with reticulate behind the scenes, and the methods of that class wrapped in an S3 functions in order to provide an interface similar to the model that's implemented in R. The result at the bottom is that the user now has access to a collection of model objects with common interfaces without having to mix Python accessor code and R functional code. They all now behave in an R native functional programming way using the S3 interfaces defined by the model hierarchy. With mixed programming languages, creating models became difficult, and we needed to abstract away the model creation and persistence process. To accomplish this, we created a PyR object factory that insulates the users from the details of saving, loading, and creating those model objects. So suppose I have a Gaussian process classifier using the gpflow Python package. I also have a classifier developed using the AutoML package teapot. Both of these methods have been saved to files. I may now want to compare the performance of these two classifiers on a new data collection, and I may also want to compare a new logistic regression classifier developed from scratch in R as a baseline. The object factory provides the ability to load and save the different models, as well as create a brand new one from scratch without the user having to know any of the specifics of how they're implemented. The object factory only needs the file name of the saved models or the name of a supported model type, and it creates the objects that can then be used in an R native way, regardless of how they may have been implemented. The result is that I can make a comparison of these various model objects using a common R native programming approach, regardless of the underlying programming language. Combining R and Python is becoming more and more common, but doing so still requires paying close attention to consistent, shareable, reproducible code that can be standardized across users within and between organizations. PyR and the Object Factory allow us to bring these tools together and maintain high standards of our common code base. Thank you, and thank you very much to Laura, Lee, and Stu for all of their effort in developing PyR.
Thank you so much, Robert, for a great talk.